Wake up! You wake up, idiot!
Gordon Ramsay is a Michelin Star Chef with a passion for fine dining and for spewing incredible insults at incompetent cooks. As the owner of 35 restaurants, he really knows his stuff when it comes to running a restaurant. He's famous for his fiery cooking competition, Hell's Kitchen, and reality shows Hotel Hell and Kitchen Nightmares. It's absolute TV gold, showing intense arguments, disgusting food, and emotional reconciliations in equal measures. Not everyone likes his tough love, however. So here are the top 10 people who made Gordon Ramsay lose it.
The next person that throws that out at me, I will throw them out.
Vic and the brick of refried beans.
It's like a cement mixer.
When visiting Mexican restaurant Fiesta Sunrise, Ramsay found a true kitchen nightmare in the chiller. Ramsay pulls tray after tray of meat sludge from the shelves, as well as ground beef that was topped with a huge chunk of fat. Sounds delicious, right? Well, it gets worse. Ramsay then uncovers what looks like a bin filled with thick, gray goo. The owner, Vic, identifies this mysterious substance as refried beans. Ramsay calls the food poop, to put it mildly, and tells Vic,
I wouldn't trust you running a bar.
After little response from Vic, Gordon dares him to show customers the beans. Vic refuses, so Gordon takes matters into his own hands and lugs the beans into the restaurant himself, slapping them onto the table and breaking it. He declares they are stopping service and everyone needs to stop eating immediately if they don't want to get ill. Customers were appalled by the beans, and it looks as though Vic finally got the message. After a thorough clean of the restaurant, a makeover, and a new chef, the restaurant is relaunched and gets glowing reviews, even from the mayor. Ramsay was hopeful for the restaurant in the future. Unfortunately, the sun set on Fiesta Sunrise later that year, as they failed to pay taxes and were briefly closed. There was also a stabbing during this time, which was the final nail in the coffin for Fiesta Sunrise.
Now I'm feeling like stupid.
Sticky Scallop Sara.
Oh, come on.
In a tense day at Hell's Kitchen, Sara begins to fall apart trying to make the appetizers for a full restaurant of 100 hungry diners. As Gordon notices the slow progress, he charges over and sees Sara flipping the scallops too fast. And that's not the only thing that flips. Surely this can't be enough to set him off. Well, as if he wasn't angry enough, the scallops are sticking to the pan as she turns them, leaving an overcooked mess in the pan. Gordon loses his mind and his voice as he screams, "If you saute the scallops in a non-stick pan, they won't stick."
That's why it's called non-stick!
She finally redeems herself by using the correct pan, and the scallops finally get the crucial thumbs up from Ramsay to be served. Despite this poor performance, she survived this episode. Sara went on to place 4th in Season 2 of Hell's Kitchen, telling Gordon, "Kiss my grits," as she left for Texas. Whether he did kiss her grits is still unconfirmed.
Kiss my grits, chef.
Your grits.
Kiss my grits.
Chef Michel and his maggots.
I don't think he likes Michelle.
You might be able to guess from the title what Ramsay is annoyed about in this one. After a tinned crab lunch at Secret Garden, Ramsay decided to see what else is lurking in the kitchen. It is generally dusty and unclean, but as he opened the chiller, even he wasn't expecting it to be this bad. The food was so moldy, it had made the fridge itself moldy. The real shocker came in the form of a sweet potato covered in maggots. As soon as he found it, Ramsay did what anyone would do and ran to the toilet to vomit. When he confronted Michel, he said it wasn't perfect, and said that Ramsay's kitchen was probably just as bad, which is a very bold claim. Later in the episode, after menu redesign, Michel decides to serve his old, awful menu instead, and Gordon loses his patience. Ramsay calls him a
French pig!
lazy and tells him to clean his own kitchen, before leaving to get some air and calm himself down. He almost leaves for good, but starts to feel he has a responsibility to help the other people at the restaurant. He returns to save the day, making Michel cook a good dish from the new menu instead, which went down well. With Michel in charge, however, the restaurant closed in the end. Still, the Maggots were probably happy to have their house back.
You work like a pig!
Mr. Panini Head.
I like it never shuts up.
When visiting the French-style bistro, Hannah and Mason's, Gordon is appalled at the incompetent chef/owner, Brian, and creates an incredible new insult in the process. In the Valentine's Day service, moldy spinach was served on not 1, not 2, but 3 dishes. Not to mention a week-old cake for dessert. Brian seemed pretty happy to keep on poisoning people, despite Gordon pointing out how disgusting it is. Brian, where is the love? To get through to him, Gordon brought both of the owners over to see the state of the chiller. What did he find? Roses are red, violets are blue, a tray had cooked chicken, and raw chicken too. Brian shrugged this off again, and Gordon shouted,
Hey, Panini Head, are you listening to me?
iconic. Gordon's face was as red as roses as he reminded Brian that he had been served this food earlier. Gordon stormed past the owners and shut the whole restaurant down, probably saving many couples from a night by the toilet. What a disappointing romantic evening that would be.
This is a disaster.
Crazy Amy. Amy of Amy's Baking Company was infamous for being completely insane, even before Gordon got there. Amy and her husband had been through roughly 100 employees in 18 months, claiming they couldn't find competent staff. That's a red flag. They also claimed to have another problem with online haters and believed there was a conspiracy against their restaurant. Yikes. When Gordon arrived, he was pleasantly surprised by how clean it was, and he was given a cake that was delicious. Very suspicious. Things became clearer at lunch, where he was served frozen food and raw pizza, and Gordon was not happy about that. He was even more annoyed to find that no one had given Amy feedback because they were scared of her.
You're scared of telling the truth?
After hitting a wall of denial with Amy, Gordon organized a meeting with both owners. It was a rare sight, but Gordon could barely get a word in. Clearly, she wasn't going to change, so he did something he'd never done before. He left. Apparently, even Gordon Ramsay has a breaking point, and she managed to reach it. You'd imagine they would close pretty soon after, but when it was revisited in a later episode, they were selling quote t-shirts and making what they called a Disneyland for the crazies.
What's going on here? Are we being punked?
Chef Ramsay and the Pumpkin King.
I, Jack, the Pumpkin King.
Lots of people try and take on Ramsay. Chefs? Sure. Owners? Heck yeah. Servers? Sometimes. But customers? Never. Well, that's what you'd think. But in Hell's Kitchen, one customer does just that for the sake of some pumpkin risotto. After shouting at the waiter, he goes right up to the kitchen to complain to Chef Ramsay himself. The customer interrupts Gordon while he was trying to finish dishes and shouts across the kitchen to him. He must be a brave, brave man. Either that or he's never seen Hell's Kitchen before. Unsurprisingly, this does not go down well with Ramsay, who is immediately irritated by the rude customer.
Right, can you get out of the way?
Quick as ever, Ramsay agrees to get some pumpkin, but tells him he'll ram it where the sun don't shine. I'm not sure that's what the customer had in mind. He does offer to dice it first. What a gentleman. I suppose that's what you get for trying to argue with Ramsay. I certainly wouldn't try it.
Don't with me.
Garrett had a little lamb.
Come on, Garrett!
In another iconic Hell's Kitchen episode, Ramsay turns his sights on Chef Garrett, who was having a somewhat shaky night. Garrett was previously a prison chef, but even he felt the pressure of Hell's Kitchen. On the meat station, Garrett is constantly falling behind, and because of his poor cooking, Ramsay suggested a rebrand of Hell's Kitchen to Donkey's Kitchen. Oof. The pressure was building for Garrett, and communication completely shut down. Bad news, Garrett. You can't ignore Chef Ramsay. Trying to save the service, Ramsay asked,
"Where's the lamb sauce?"
leading to the creation of a new viral meme. Amazingly, he still has to ask Garrett twice. Not good. When he finally gets it, Ramsay tells him to F off, calling him Yankee Danky Doodle a really bad word. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I respect the Dr. Seuss spin on insulting. Amazingly, his team wins the challenge as they served more meals than the other team. Garrett left Hell's Kitchen 2 episodes later, in Series 2, Episode 7, after sending raw chicken to the customers. Although he never made it to the final, Garrett has now been immortalized in one of the most famous episodes of Hell's Kitchen ever, which is just as good, I guess.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Crabby Abby.
I've been called worse than that.
In Season 4 of Kitchen Nightmares, Ramsay travels to Rhode Island to save restaurant Down City, owned by BFFs Abby and Rico. Abby says she has 30 years of experience in restaurants and rates the food 10 on 10. Ah, sure it is, Abby. We've heard that before. After trying the food, Gordon is not impressed, and later finds out there is no head chef, and Abby, who can't cook, writes the menu. What a mess. Gordon later inspects the kitchen, and I'm sure you can imagine what a kitchen with no head chef looks like. Disgusted by the messy kitchen, he heads down to the chiller, where he finds chicken carcasses in a carrier bag, not normal, and some unidentifiable cheesy-smelling mold. Abby and Rico are brought down to inspect the mess with Gordon, but Abby refuses to accept it. Instead, she accuses Ramsay of planting the mess there. I guess he just brought his bag of rotten chicken into work that day? Furious at these insane claims, Ramsay calls her a
Stuck-up, precious little
starting a huge argument which ends with her telling him to leave. Poor Rico was caught in the middle of this madness and chases after Gordon, who is his only hope of keeping the restaurant. Gordon agrees to help him and meets with Abby to start making changes at Down City. The new chef and new menu go down well on relaunch night, and when Gordon revisits in a later episode, the business is thriving. However, Gordon can still see tension between Abby and Rico, and apparently she just shouts at him instead of the staff. Rico just can't catch a break.
You are so in denial. You need therapy.
Melin-deer in the headlights. Hell's Kitchen contestant Melinda had too much on her plate on the appetizer station for dinner service. She was tasked with making the capellini dish, which is basically fancy thin spaghetti, for the evening. After failing to cook one dish of pasta 7 times, she gave Chef Ramsay her 8th attempt, which she promised was cooked correctly. Wrong! Ramsay told her it was undercooked again, and she threw yet another portion of fancy and expensive pasta in the bin. Ramsay catches this and tells her she should have just cooked it in the pan for a little longer. Just think of the waste. Gordon put 2 and 2 together and realized she had probably thrown every dish so far away, and so began emptying the bin and putting heap after heap of capellini onto the counter. Amazed, he shouted at Melinda, who was too shocked to speak, and just stood staring at him like a dog who just tracked mud onto the carpet. Her lack of communication didn't help her case, and he screamed, "You're making me effing mad." That was it for Melinda. She was eliminated later that episode as she was blamed for the team's loss. After her elimination, Ramsay commented, "Melinda was completely lost in space." Moldy floor Kaurs.
That is disgusting.
In a truly hellish hotel called The Brick, Gordon finds some potentially life-threatening hazards that the owner Verinder Kaur and son CJ hadn't cared to notice. Starting in the kitchen, Gordon finds a bucket full of thick, black, tar-like liquid from the grease traps. You don't need a professional to tell you that's not good. Gordon stressed that this could start a fire, and they were lucky they hadn't burned the whole place down already. Angered by the complacency, he stormed upstairs to check the cleanliness of his room. He used a bacterial testing kit to measure what exactly was lurking in his room. According to Ramsay, the measurement of 10 to 20 is healthy, but more than 30 is unhygienic. He tested the vents first, and it's worse than you think. 35, 60, 100? Nope, it was 573. He then tried the shower curtain, which had visible mold on it. Prepare yourself for this one. It was 5,680. That's seriously filthy. In the guest rooms, Gordon then finds mold under the carpet and in their shower.
Unhygienic.
That's too far for him, and he pulls the fire alarm, getting everyone out of the hotel ASAP and hopefully into a clean shower. After an eye-opening staff meeting, the owner finally sees she needs to change. With a thorough clean and a revamp, the hotel is relaunched and locals are invited around to the new hotel and restaurant. It looked hopeful to begin with, but Yelp reviews are mixed with customers who are unhappy with the high prices. On the bright side though, it's still open. Swing by if you're ever in Newtown, Pennsylvania.
You should come by sometime if you want.
Hungry for more? Just tap on that screen for more great videos. And if it's your first time here, show us some love and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to join our notification squad.